Welcome to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
Can ships be haunted? What happened aboard the American Navy cruiser USS Salem? And is it still going on? Welcome to the...
I apologize. I'm fiddle-faddling with knobs over here.
You're multitasking, yes.
Yes, I am.
Right.
Welcome to the 835th edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. I am Ben, and those haunting questions came from my co-host, partner in the paranormal, and dad, Paul. And today we bring you two of our favorite guests on an age-old question, and we welcome your calls today. The number is 401-766-1240. That's from anywhere. Or email Paul at behindtheparanormal.com. You can contact us by Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Before we introduce our guests, we note with sadness the translation on Tuesday, March 10th of Ted Phillips, a giant in the UFO world, an engineer and professional photographer who appeared on this show several times. Ted was founder of the Center for Physical Trace Research. He had probably the world's largest collection of physical evidence for UFO landings. The field will be that much the poorer without Ted. Joining us in studio today, we're pampered. We have the in-studio guest 3 weeks in a row.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. I don't think that's ever happened.
It hasn't.
No.
Our two prominent New England paranormal researchers, one an author and the other a filmmaker, and both broadcasters. They have both appeared on the show a number of times with us, especially on live panels we've done from New Hampshire during the annual Exeter UFO Festival and the Saucer Symposium. And we'll let them introduce themselves. Willy Hassell.
Okay, well, I'm Willy Hassell. I'm a paranormal investigator, as Paul said, radio and TV talk show host, and documentary filmmaker.
Lynne Nickerson,
and I
my distant cousin.
Yes, hi, cuz. Along with Willy, we had Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, going for about 6 years, and we also had a little TV show called Beyond Reality TV. And as Willy mentioned, we both ghost hunt. And presently, I'm working on a book, and Willy's working on his documentary.
What about the book you just published a year or two ago?
Oh, that is called Gateway to the Paranormal. And that is available on Amazon and 3 bookstores in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, if that's where you live. And I think there are only 3 in Portsmouth.
Speaking as a professional editor, it's a darn good book.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, so Ben, take us into the world of the paranormal here.
Well, we'll start out with a pretty broad... Well, yeah, I suppose it is technically a question. Well, let us start with the story of the USS Salem. Let us start there. What is the story?
Okay, well, the USS Salem was a World War II vintage. It was ordered by the Navy on June 14th of 1943, and it was built right at the Bethlehem Steel Company in Quincy, Mass., locally here. By the time, though, it was actually launched and commissioned, the war was over. It was commissioned in 1949, and so the ship never actually saw any wartime action, but she was used, made several trips to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. That's where she did her shakedown cruising, and kind of got the nickname the Gitmo Express from that. But then after that, she was moved on to the Atlantic Fleet and then was stationed in the Mediterranean, where she became known as the Pride of the Sixth Fleet. And she was basically... Like I say, after the war, she was basically like, human resource kind of thing, and responded to several things, one being the Ionian earthquake in Greece in 1953, where she was used as sort of a makeshift hospital, and a lot of people from the earthquake died on the ship, which is one of the reasons it's haunted. Mm-hmm. A lot of the activity now is from the people from the earthquake. And also, at another time, she was rafted a long time, a different Navy ship, which I forget the name of, and I believe it was the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And the other ship had a fire and an explosion, where several men were killed, and they were brought onto the Salem, and so they also add to the hauntings. But it's been reported to be by Sam Beltrusis, who is a local author on all things haunted. He says it's one of the most haunted places in New England and possibly even in the country. So.
Now, just a point of historical, and correct me if I'm wrong. When people around here hear Salem, they think Salem, Massachusetts. I believe the ship is named after Salem, Oregon. I don't know. Not that that makes any difference.
Or is it Salem, New Hampshire?
No, actually, it is named after Salem, Massachusetts.
Is it really?
And
okay,
that's where it got the name the Sea Witch.
Okay, yeah.
Because, Salem, Mass being the witch city, and it was named after Salem, and so the nickname of the ship is the Sea Witch.
Which witch is which?
Exactly, which I don't know which is which.
Yeah.
and so from there came up the question, like I believe you mentioned the opening, can an inanimate object like a ship have a soul? And so that's where the name of the documentary, The Soul of the Sea Witch, came from.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, could you tell us how you came to make the documentary? And you also have some things you want to quote from it for us as well, I understand.
Well, actually, I don't have the quotes anymore because I had the audio, but we can't play that. So
yeah, we have a technical.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Today.
That's okay. All you have to do to hear that audio is just come to the premiere.
Okay. Well, now, funny you should ask that because we have a question.
Yes.
From someone we all know and love, Michelle Mitchell.
Michelle.
We consider ourselves part of the paranormal community in the Portsmouth, Kittery, Seacoast area.
You should. You're there enough.
Exactly. Yeah, because we're always there. So
they all adore you.
Yeah. We should, well, Mom likes Portsmouth. Maybe we ought to move. Yeah. Anyway, no offense to dear old Rhode Island, but this is from Michelle Mitchell.
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah.
Hi, Michelle.
And she says hi. I'm looking forward to today's show. Please say hi to Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
Everybody, yeah. Willy and Lynne. Wondering if their Soul of the Sea Witch event, which is the premiere, has been canceled for April 17th.
Good question.
I am keeping my fingers crossed. As of yet, there has been no word of a cancellation. So at this point, the show goes on.
Okay.
Until further notice.
Yeah. Well, last night we were all disappointed that we were all supposed to be at the premiere for Lions of the East, Alexander Petikoff's new film, and Alexander being just a phenomenon to us, a young filmmaker and a guest co-host of this show sometimes.
I'm not sure how he has the energy to do it, honestly.
It's amazing. Oh, he's all over the world. Globe-trotting, he's everywhere.
I know it.
So anyway, not a good time for filmmakers and their premieres right now.
I guess not. But since you brought up Alexander, though, I want to mention that Alexander did some amazing drone footage for me for this for the documentary.
Oh, he and his drone.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
And
he comes down to the Pennsylvania case with us and brings the famous drone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Shane Seaway has a drone. Shane, another co-host of the show.
That's really
all part of our gang up there in the.
Yeah. I have one now too, but I'm just learning to use it.
I haven't. I'm thinking of. Anyway, I'm still getting into the trail camps. Right? So, but that's for another show. Okay, let's get into a few questions here. This is from a very faithful listener of ours in Bogota, Colombia, and almost every week he writes in these great questions. So, Peter from Bogota. Ben, if you would.
So Peter writes to us, can you please ask Willy and Lynne, we'll start with one of three questions. We'll go with the first one, because the first place is a very good place to start. Did you detect any communications during your investigation, EVPs or otherwise? If so, what were the results?
On the ship, presumably. Yeah.
Well, if I could answer that first before you dive into that, I haven't been on the ship. But I do have a tendency to pick up things from photographs. And if I see a picture of somebody from the past and then the present, I can detect a difference that they went through. If it was a drug problem that became alcoholic or they lost a loved one, I can often pick that stuff up. So I did see a photo of the surgery area on the ship, and I got a very strong impression of pain from burning. And this is before I knew. I felt that there were severe burns on board. And then I thought, wow, there's a lot of births on this ship, too. And then Sam Baltrusis messaged me back and said, yeah, both were very accurate. And that was one was from the Ionian, where the births
Yeah,
had taken
the
place.
burning probably would be from the other ship.
Yeah, I
that
was
had the
getting
fire,
to that, but the bursts were from the
the
Ionian
bursts,
Island.
yes,
Right, the
yes.
bursts. And then the burning when there was the explosion in the harbor. So both of those proved effective. So my answer is I didn't have to go on board to pick up something, that I was getting it from the photograph of the ship itself.
Well, during the filming, we all heard phantom footsteps running around the ship when we know there was nobody there. One of the crew members saw a shadow figure walk across the corridor right in front of him. Personally, let's see, one of the camera operators was filming some B-roll up in the bridge, and he was surprised by a loud bang behind him, and there was absolutely nobody else in the area. So, we don't know. Maybe that was the helmsman just going about his day's routine. But those are the only things really that I personally came across during the time I was filming. It was, I got to say, it was a really fun project to do. I basically had a 717-foot Navy ship with unrestricted access to play with.
That is actually
Oh,
really
wow.
cool.
Yeah,
That was like my childhood dream.
It was fun. It was fun.
Well,
So-
we used to hang out on the USS Massachusetts, the battleship in Fall River, Mass. And a lot of people who are listening locally have been there, of course.
Yes, Battleship Cove.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, no, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, there's, of course, Peter is very thorough in
Oh, yes.
questioning.
Yes.
So that is one of three. Now we'll move on to 2 of 3. Do you think the Eno parasite theory applies here? Why or why not?
Would you encounter anything negative?
Well,
No,
Sam,
I have not, but,
Sam
yeah.
seems to think so, but
Yeah.
I don't feel that it's negative. He calls something the Burning Man that is a result of what happened in the harbor, the explosion in the harbor. But it could be one of two things. It might be that guy is still very angry and he hasn't gotten over the pain, or it could be that something negative has gravitated toward the ship because of all the pain and the suffering that was on board. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
So it's
So parasites do.
yeah.
Interesting question.
But personally, I didn't detect anything negative myself. I think it's just negative, I suppose.
You mean evil, really? Don't
Yeah,
you?
I mean negative.
Nothing
People
really
who
evil.
were hurt and injured. Obviously, that's negative. But I didn't detect anything evil, anything like that.
And Willy, Peter's final question is, I understand that the USS Salem did not see combat, which we mentioned earlier. If there is such a high level of activity on a non-combat ship, I would imagine surviving World War II combat vessels could have seen more. Is that true?
I would certainly imagine so. I can't imagine any ship that was in combat that wouldn't be haunted. Really.
I can't either, quite frankly.
Yeah, and
That reminds me of Patriots Point in Charleston, South Carolina, where my Southern Belle wife's people are, some of them anyway. There is a museum, a naval museum, with the USS Yorktown, World War II Yorktown, and a couple of other ships. And the Yorktown supposedly is very haunted. We might want to look at the definition of what that is. But speaking of being old, I happened to walk around on one of the docks there, and there was a Coast Guard ship, I believe it was the Unimac, which I did not serve on her, but I would visit her in the line of duty when she was stationed in New Bedford, Mass. And talk about feeling old. And there's a mannequin in a Coast Guard. Oh, is that what you look like, Daddy? You asked that. And I said, "Oh, brother, man,
The beard.
wrong rank." But anyway, you want to feel old. The ship you were involved with is in a museum. Oh gosh, not haunted as far as I knew.
So speaking of ships, what is it about ships that become so haunted? Right? There's always stories of ghost ships and things like that. I know in the line of. When you were Coast Guard or Coastie, Dad,
Did
you would
you
hear.
see one? Did you see a ghost ship, Paul?
Oh, that's not where I was going. I was going to say.
Oh, no, I had a lot of weird things happen.
Yeah, so a lot of weird things happen on the high seas. You know, some strange things happen. You know, or you know, stories of ghost ships, or you know, signals from you know the Queen Mary or something are pulled in. You know, radio transmissions. But that's a very easy explanation because you know, with it, you know, it could be signals bouncing around the ionosphere that just kind of appear and fall down because there's all sorts of stuff hanging around the atmosphere that can easily be picked up at any time. Anyway, essentially what I'm getting to is why is it ships? What about ships makes them so haunted?
The fact that they're iron. As they proceed through the water, they become magnetized.
I think that has something to do with it. Go ahead, Willy.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I didn't have an answer.
Well, I mean, that's just one thing. But, you know, in having a more or less nautical background and doing a lot, I would always double dip while I was in the service. I would we'd get to a port and I'd hook up with a local voodoo priest or something like that. I'm literally in Haiti, I did that, and not necessarily a pleasant experience. But you know, I began to look at it, and if a ship is made of iron or metal containing iron, it's going to magnetize, and at least in our thinking, that has things to do with space and time, possibly changing things.
If I could add something to that, even along the lines of residual imprints or along the line of an active haunting, I think we become aware of something being haunted because of the emotional impact. If you have a great deal of emotional impact, that acts as an amplifier, added along with the magnetism of the iron.
Oh, yeah, it all works together.
Yes, I think it all works together. So it's like really amplified. So it's not just ships, but I mean, if you had a house, which, you know, especially the older houses that might sit on blocks of granite, again, an amplifier, they can be, you know, really, really haunted. So it's not just ships, but certainly there's so much energy and activity on ships and a lot of distress. But also men spent their times out to sea for months at a time so that it became their life and that was their focus. So there was so much energy put into the ship.
That's true. You do get cabin fever. As a matter of fact, you know, there's the cruise goes by, you kind of get goofier.
Yep. Yeah.
Like by the end of our deployment, this is right after the Grenada thing. We were headed back to Boston. You know, it was a 378-foot ship, so it was a lot smaller than the Salem. This is the Chase, the Coast Guard cutter. And holy criminy, they had the ship's in-house cable TV thing. You know, there'd be just to inform the crew. The captain would. There would be the corpsman, the medic, if you will. There was a flying fish landed on the deck, and he's trying to give it CPR. And that's how goofy you get when you know. But I mean. And the Navy deployments are a lot longer than the Coast Guard ones, unless you're wintering over in the Antarctic or something on an icebreaker or something like that.
It becomes your life.
It does, yeah. And it's your home, it's your life, and it's all magnetized iron. So, you know, I mean, most of the stuff I saw at sea had to do with like the Bermuda Triangle, quote unquote, a weird phenomena having to do with magnetism again, and ashore, some voodoo stuff and some fairies, if you will. I didn't see that, but
fairies.
I ran into people who swore they were having an issue with, not an issue,
on
but
board.
Oh no! This is ashore in Puerto Rico.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah. No fairies on the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the bosuns.
yeah. So, but yeah. So there were, but I never saw any ghosts, if you will, on any of the ships because I was busy too. You know.
So I guess that would lead to a logical conclusion that if there is this much sort of energy that's devoted not only to, you know, daily life on a ship, you know, there's that interesting sort of phenomena where, you know, if a plane crashes and stuff salvaged and put into other planes, you know, they experience some of the other things. Now, with that sort of idea of emotion, or you know, just a physical, just an all around complete human experience inside of an object that you're in for long periods of time, I guess that would lead to the logical conclusion of the ship essentially becomes alive, right?
Yeah, it's imbued with that energy.
Which brings me right back to what
soul.
I had said. Yeah, the soul. One of our first days on the ship, actually, this was before we started filming. We were down, looking around for filming locations and such. And the question was brought up by my brother, actually, Jim. Can an object like a ship have a soul?
An inanimate object.
Yeah.
Are there any such thing as... I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so, anyway, we brought that up. Well, I brought it up at a KRI meeting one night. I just put out the question, can a ship have a soul? What would be your answers to that?
Well, I suppose, it would be, the first question would be, what do we mean by soul, right? Because soul is a horribly translated word from, I forget which Greek word it comes from.
Anima.
Yeah.
Animus or anima.
Animus.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you look at the word in that definition. Because the way it's come to be seen now is sort of this dualistic thing where it's separated from the body, and it's sort of two separate things that kind of... It's like if you had magnetic peanut butter and jelly, where they're constantly repelling each other, but they're also a part of each other at the same time. And that's sort of how, being a third-party observer looking at it is how it's viewed. Whereas the sort of ontological nature in which I was brought up in, it's a part of... It's the soul being this sort of, for lack of better words, I have to kind of put it all into perspective quickly and make sure it makes sense. Basically, when we say soul, we mean sort of the inner portion of the heart being the original definition, not so much the physical heart or beating or an emotional center, but rather being heart meaning the core of the being that encompasses intellect, spirit, and body all in one area, and brings it all together, and the soul is a part of that experience.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So in that realm, if this is the case, if we're talking about soul in the sense of it being a living, breathing thing that has that nature of physical and spiritual put into one, I don't know. That's the question, is what do we mean by soul first? Or is it alive in a sense of it being spiritually alive, sort of one portion of its being there, or is it the belief of it being alive? Is it that, I made this point to somebody once, that we as humans, we develop such strong bonds with anything. With anything, our pets, our cars, our whatever. We develop such strong bonds. And why is that? Why do we do that? Even with things that we consider inanimate, we develop really strong bonds. Is it that we require that sort of symbiotic relationship with, I don't know, let's say this coffee I'm holding in my hand. Thanks, coffee. You keep me awake. Or, you help me kickstart my day. Do I believe this coffee has a soul? I don't know. And is it that we commune with things that have souls? And is that why we form bonds? I think that there's a lot of underlying things that need to be addressed first before figuring out if something else has a soul. And I think it starts with examining the self.
Can you beat that, Paul?
I don't know how to beat it, but the Greek root that the word soul comes from means life. So the soul is the life. I think ships have souls. Yes, I do, because I don't believe in that anything is inanimate. I don't believe in inanimate objects. Maybe it's hanging around with Australian shamans and voodoo priests, but that there's a sense, we have a sense of the island theory, as we always call it, but we're all individuals. Everything is a thing in itself. None of that appears to be true. And then whether philosophically, viewpoint of physics, I think everything and the shamans will tell you everything has a spirit.
It has a consciousness. Everything has a consciousness.
That's even better.
The molecules all have a job to do. They have an intellect about them, and they do their job. And if they didn't, everything would fall apart. So they know what they're doing. Whether they've got heart in it, I don't know. But there is a consciousness to the universe in everything.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's precisely true, and I think what we have trouble understanding in the West is the commonality, the unity with a capital U, the nature of how this all works. again, it's not individual. No, I always say this in lecture. You heard me say it 100 times. With all due respect to the founders of our country, there really isn't any such thing as an individual. There is, and we are all unique, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a unity that is shot through.
That's right.
All of us, and that goes for ships too, I think. Yeah. So I will tell you. See, this is your show, not mine, but there is something that's a sequel to my experience in the Coast Guard. On my ship, the Chase, on the way south, to the Caribbean, we had a turbine fire. All right. Now the ships were aging at this. It was built in 1968, and this is 1984. The ship had turbines, to really engines to speed if you're chasing someone, whatever. And there was one of the firemen, as they're called, working in the engine room, was not killed but injured slightly, but he was okay. On the next cruise that I was not present for, I believe 2 of the people in the engine room were killed by the turbine. And I heard after that there were sightings and strange things that happened because everybody knew I was into this, and they would find out. They would let me know. One of the things that also occurred was that I believe some parts. There comes a point where military equipment is cannibalized for other equipment of the same kind, and we had a sister ship, the Hamilton, both stationed in Boston at the base there, and they would sometimes exchange parts. As a matter of fact, I would talk to some of the machinist mates, and they would be actually talking to machinist mates from other ships. Do you have this part? And that's how, I mean, today it's a lot better, but back in those days, especially the Coast Guard was the poor sister of the Navy.
Only the strongest survive.
Yeah, right. So I do understand that was going on. Oh, we have to take our bottom of the hour break. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WOON 1240 AM and 99.5 FM in New England's gorgeous Blackstone River Valley, with our 2 wonderful guests who came all the way down from the frozen north, Willy Hassell and Lynne Nickerson, and we'll be right back.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to The Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Local and live at 99.5 FM.
Yeah, welcome back to Behind the Paranormal here on WOON AM and FM, and we'll continue our conversation on. We've gotten to the idea of whether ships have souls, and Willy Nickerson, Willy Hassell, Lynne Nickerson. I'm about as old as the ship was, and Lynne was going to lead us further into this.
Did you finish making your comment, Paul?
Yeah, yes, about the ship. Yeah, that's
okay.
Those are all things I heard later on.
So I think we have a tendency to try and humanize everything. So I don't believe that the ship would necessarily have a personality. It lacks heart and it lacks emotion, but it is imbued with the energy, and that energy is its soul. I mean, you take any inanimate object, if you get a really good sensitive, they can hold an object and they can tell you things. So this object is imbued with energy, so that's the idea of psychometry. I think the same thing applies to even things on a grander scale, like a ship. It is imbued with this energy, and that energy signature becomes the soul of the ship. It's not that it's a person and a personality with a heart and feeling, but it has its own energy signature, I feel.
That's basically the answer that we all came up with. It's kind of like the collective, going back to the word soul, if that's what you want to use, the collective soul of all the people that were on the ship.
Yeah, the officers
were touched by the
be
ship.
the mind of the heart.
And
it's imbued.
as Ben brought up a little while ago, the sailors and the officers on the ship, they loved the ship, and so
we loved our ship. Yeah.
So it becomes, the ship kind of becomes part of them, or they become part of the ship.
Yep.
And I can understand it. Just in the time that I was there filming, I got to love the ship. I love going down there. It's just a really cool place. And
I don't know. There is something. Maybe you and I are just old sea dogs or something.
Well, maybe.
I don't know. But it was one of the greatest experiences that I ever had was serving aboard that ship. But Now, tell us more about the documentary. Where did the term sea witch, did people in general use that in regard to the USS Salem, or?
It is the official nickname of the ship.
Nickname. Okay.
Like I say, coming from the town of Salem, the witch city.
Mm-hmm.
So the nickname of the ship is the Sea Witch.
Okay. Did you talk to any witnesses, particularly members of the old crew who would still be around? Some of them.
I actually did. I talked to we interviewed a couple of the members of the Salem Association, the volunteers. One of which did serve on the ship back in the 1950s. And he was really interesting, had some great stories about his times on the ship. But he actually himself has had paranormal experiences on the ship. He's heard his name called when there was nobody around. And so, I mean, as far as people that were on the ship, he was the only one I was able to get a hold of to interview. His name is John Connors. And also there was Leo Como, who was a volunteer. He didn't actually serve on the ship, but he worked at the shipyard. And so they both loved the ship, and they still volunteer all the time.
I was actually just going to ask if there was anybody who served on the ship that did experience anything, and more specifically, how they reacted to it.
He said he was not afraid of it at all. It was just like kind of a friendly hello. He called him by name, whoever it was, and he wasn't scared. He was more interested than anything. So.
Well, I think it's the grandmother of all haunted ships is supposed to be the Queen Mary. Mm-hmm.
That's what they say.
Out in L.A. Now we've never been there. We've been to near California. We've never been to
been around it, but not in
around it, but not in over under.
I've been by it, but that's all. You've been on it, right?
I've been on it.
You have. Well, tell us about it, Lynne.
I didn't feel much of anything except down around the pool. That area felt weird to me.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a child that's seen, and then they'll see wet footsteps around the pool.
But you didn't say that yourself.
I did not, no. I just felt something. I felt that area was occupied. Okay. There was energy there.
Of course, Queen Mary being a famous ocean liner, and then was retired and became is a hotel now?
Well,
or a museum, at least.
Yeah, you can stay on board, and you can, I think you can pretty much have full use of the ship, walking around and inspecting it. And they do have ghost tours. Okay. They did at one point anyway.
Yeah. That's it. But as far as the Salem is concerned, it is in a museum and can be visited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
it is. A paranormal destination, would you say?
It is a paranormal destination too. They do ghost tours.
Well, they don't sleep on board, right? Nobody can.
Well, actually, they can't. They do have overnight.
Oh, do they? Oh,
but
okay.
Not for the investigations. Greater Boston Paranormal does the paranormal investigations on the ship now. And while mentioning them, I want to give a big thank you to Don DeCristofaro and the whole Greater Boston Paranormal Associates team. Without them, this never would have happened.
Well, bravo. So, do you feel that, and this goes not just for ships, but for any investigation, that you can bring something with you, in the sense that, just as an example, there's an idea that when they say, okay, well, if you really hear, raise the temperature. I mean, some of this to us seems a little bit silly, and then the temperature goes up. I mean, there's some theory that the investigators themselves are intervening in a sort of a quantum way and causing some of this. And what do you think? You do a lot more of that than we do.
You said bringing something with you first.
Well, that's perhaps not a good way. You're more concerned about bringing something away with, away from the site.
Taking something following you home?
No. Well, yeah, that, and then in the sense that when you go into a thing, to a venue like the ship or like a house or whatever, that you are bringing, maybe whether it be preconceived notions or are causing inadvertently some of the, by projection, some of the phenomena.
Perhaps by bringing energy into the
kind of thing, yeah. Changing the chemical.
I think that's possible, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't put your finger on it, but.
No, I think it's something that we've got powers that we're not entirely aware of.
Yeah.
And I think you can project and make something manifest, like raising the temperature.
Right. So what's the next step with the Salem? Because the documentary is ready to debut. Hopefully, will next week. Can you tell us?
The premiere of the documentary is scheduled, hopefully, for April 17th, and that is going to be at the Studio 101 at Harbor Place in Haverhill, Mass. 6:30 p.m. to 8:30. We're going to have a reception first with some food and snacks, and then we show the film, and afterwards there will be a question and answer. Lynne Nickerson, host of Spirit Radio, The Paranormal Experience, has agreed to be the moderator. She's going to ask questions and audience questions. Myself, Don DeCristofaro, and Sam Beltrusis will be on the panel.
Great. I've never met Sam. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, yeah. Right. How did I manage that? I mean, it's the same.
He has a wonderful sense of
major
humor.
theological figure in this field. So excellent. So we'll look forward and we'll hope for the best.
Yeah. And anyway, that is free of charge. There's no admission. So everybody, come on down. Bring your friends. Bring your neighbors.
Yeah.
There'll even be food.
Yep, there'll even be food. There'll be drinks.
Talk me into it.
Not alcoholic drinks, but there will be drinks.
Okay.
I mean, food is okay with me. I'm fine with that.
Without giving too much away, can you talk about the format of the documentary and how long is it, first of all?
It's 34 minutes.
Okay.
It's short.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, but it must have taken you forever to
suspense.
actually do all the shooting and editing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I feel like
I was filming. What was it? August through September. Finished filming sometime in September, and I finally got it done editing about a month ago.
Wow, that's actually congratulations. That's very impressive. I have worked on films that are 5 minutes long, and it has taken people a year to edit them. So so kudos to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well done.
I hope when you see it, you say the same thing.
I'm of the personal opinion that he does an excellent job on the editing. He really does. The way he juxtaposes all the scenes, it has a lot of flow to it. It's sequential, and I was really impressed with that, especially in reviewing the film.
Can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank
really
you.
good job.
Yeah.
So basically the format, it starts out with some of the history of the ship. And then there's a little section where I went up actually to Salem, Mass, and filmed on location up there with the background of, how it's connected with Salem. And then we go into basically different people telling about their experiences on the ship and some recreations. I got some cool shadow figures and stuff like that in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And some mist figures and...
And he's good at special effects, too. Really, they came out very well.
Good.
I think I did pretty good at it, yeah.
Are you planning on doing any sort of distribution for it, like DVDs, anything like that?
I'm hoping to come up with DVDs for it. I can't sell them because I did this through Haverhill Community TV, so I can't make any money off it.
I mean, that's fair.
But I do want to make some DVDs to donate to the ship so that they can not sell them, but donations for them.
Yeah, keep upkeep and whatnot.
And at events, showings and stuff, I can donate, DVDs and give the money to the ship. So I do hope to do things like that.
Okay. So what else are you both working on at this point?
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was going to hand it off to you.
I'm working on a second book, and then we're considering using the same sort of formatting as the radio show and taking the radio show on the road. We're thinking about that.
That'd be interesting. And you were on WSCA FM in Portsmouth, New Hampshire for 6 years.
Not anymore.
Right?
Well, for 6 years we were,
Yeah. Okay.
So this would not be an in-studio thing. It would be on location.
Yeah. Well, this would be a continuation of Edge of Reality TV, which
Well,
we
format.
did in Haverhill.
Yeah.
And
Except,
same
and of
focus.
course, you were our very first guest on that.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right. I
Ben
remember
was
that.
sick
I forgot
that
I was
night.
the first.
Yes, I remember that, and I never get sick. So I get sick like once or
right.
twice a year,
Yeah.
and like it just happened to be when I got sick.
Yeah, we missed you.
I was there in spirit.
Well, there you go. Yes. Does Ben have a soul? Of course he does.
I do not.
So now, what about you, Lynn? What are you working on some interesting cases right now, or both of you actually?
Actually, we just did an investigation at the public library in Dover, New Hampshire, and we're still going through the evidence. Not a lot of overt evidence, but I got two really strange photos. Willy may have some light anomalies on his video, and there were a few EVPs we used to avoid a spirit box. So there were some responses on that. So I'm going through my EVPs, and I've done a lot of research on the history of the building and the general area and the people involved with the building. So I'm putting that together so that we can maybe put these characters that are coming up in our investigation in context, so that we'll have a full report to give to the library when we're done.
Okay.
So, with all that being said, this is a question we always like to ask any of our friends in any field, whether it be Bigfoot, ufology, what have you. Where do you think the field of paranormal research is going? What do you see is the future of it?
Well, the paranormal research, how are you defining that? Just looking into ghosts or looking into things like the existence of cryptids? I mean, you're talking about the whole scope of the paranormal?
Well, I guess we can narrow it down if you'd like.
They all seem to be coming together, don't you
It
think?
does seem to be coming together, but where do you believe? Let's. I guess my answering my own question here. let's narrow this down. I guess specifically, ghost research. Where do you believe that's going?
I think the first thing you have to do is separate research from TV programs. Two different things.
But bouncing off from that, I'm all with you, Paul, about the quantum physics thing, and I think we're going to find out that what appears to be supernatural is actually natural, is just represented by physics that we don't understand yet.
That's what we think, yeah.
I think it's going to be ongoing, and I think that it'll eventually be proven that the supernatural is actually part of our natural world that is more interdimensional, multidimensional than we ever thought possible.
Well, I like the term that our colleague Mark D'Antonio uses, one of our crazy gang here, is the term undiscovered science.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly my point. So how could we not go into that field further?
That makes sense. So with that also being said, this is something that was brought up to me very recently, and it didn't really dawn on me until very recently that there is the new generation of paranormal investigators in general are stepping into the foreground, which includes me weirdly, although it does not feel like it. And maybe some other people. Do you see, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way to word this that doesn't sound ageist. Do you see more young people getting into the field, or have you witnessed it? Do you think they care in your experience?
I don't feel that young people. I think their focus is elsewhere. I think it's kind of more like middle-aged and a little bit older that are really interested in demystifying the paranormal. That's kind of my opinion. I mean, I think kids like to be scared. They like horror shows. They like the thrill of being scared. But as far as seriously investigating the paranormal, I'm not feeling it. I'm thinking that that's not where their interests lie.
I think you're probably right about that.
You think?
Yeah. No, go ahead, Willie.
No.
Okay. Ben, you run our YouTube channel, and you keep track of the stats as far as who is listening. And you pointed out a few weeks ago the age groups.
Oh, yes.
Who listen to this show.
Yeah.
And it surprised me.
Oh, yeah, it's predominantly, actually I could pull it up for you right now if you'd like, just so I don't have to guess from exactly the numbers. But weirdly, it's more men than anybody else recently, which is surprising. I didn't expect that So let's see.
Well, as you're looking for that, Willie and I had been in Barnes & Noble, and he remarked that there just weren't very many books on, like, ghosts and ghost investigations and huntings. The focus seems to be more on spiritual awareness, maybe past life, a lot of Wiccan stuff. It's going crazy with the Wiccan information, but not so much like Linda Godfrey's work on cryptids or Bigfoot's research. It seems like that's kind of, not that it's suppressed, but it's almost falling by the wayside. At least that's Barnes & Noble. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we'd go in there. There'd be like 2 or 3 shelves of paranormal. I went in there last night. There was about maybe 10 books. That was
very
it.
few. I was
Any
very
bars?
surprised. Any of yours?
I don't think there was, actually.
Yeah,
They used to
was
be,
there.
but they sold them all.
Well, good.
And
That
they're not
sounds good. Thank
replenishing
you.
the shelves, seemingly.
Yeah.
Because that paranormal section has really dwindled. And why? Makes you wonder why.
It's funny. Our publisher, Schiffer, had a roundtable in which I participated to ask that very question. Traditional paranormal books, the classic, whether it be ghost stories or whatever, or psychic stuff, they didn't know why it wasn't selling. But ours was selling. This is our 2016 book, the one that was sort of a history, and a different aspect, our goofy approach that we take. That was selling. And I said, well, I can't tell you why, but I think that people want something a little deeper, maybe more authentic, different, maybe a more thoughtful approach. I don't know. And the one that came out last August is selling quite well. I'm giving it a stand. So maybe it's people were just bored with the old-time approach. I don't know. But you're right. The bookstores the shelves are a lot skimpier than they were,
it's
previously.
Like they're not replenishing them or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. But at the same time, we've had a good economy. And when the economy is good, and when things are, when it's peacetime, and things are generally
Less
coming
leisure
along,
time.
People don't seem as interested in this because they're not frightened. Okay,
like transpersonal psychology with Carl Maslow.
Yes,
his hierarchy of needs, which is actually it makes a lot of sense.
His hierarchy of what?
A hierarchy of needs.
Oh, needs. Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, it's like a pyramid basically, and it's like you need food, water, shelter, and then when you have all of those, then you can contemplate the higher mysteries of life. And it's kind of straightforward stuff, just put in fancy schmancy psychological terms. Also, I did pull up the analytics, and this is since 2016. 37% of our audience, this is just YouTube, are between the ages of 35 to 44, and 34% was 65 and above.
Wow.
So men or women, or just an age group?
57% was men, and then the rest was women.
Interesting.
Oh.
Yes. This is your bailiwick here. Do you have any theories about why that is? Not that there's anything wrong with it.
I'm not sure. I could venture a guess, but the problem with analytics and marketing is you have to use a lot of sociological stuff, which is mostly conjecture. I could make theories that seem plausible. My guess would be, the older you get, you'd probably want to know what happens when you die.
Okay. Yeah.
But what about men versus women? Because usually there's usually a heavier concentration of women that are mediumistic or psychic rather than men. I think
but we don't tend to cater to those people in our approach. Really, you're special, Lynne. You are a lovely human being who is very, very, very open.
Special.
We've had. We don't do a lot of shows with mediums. Usually,
granted, I'm saying that those people that would be interested in this show, often I would think there would be a higher concentration of women, only because it seems that they are more psychically inclined in general. Anyways, that used to be the trend.
Well, we
But
tend to be
men
more,
are coming into their own, like Sam Baltrusis, for instance,
Yeah,
and all of the people that are investigating, particularly the cryptid area field of.
I'm going to stop everybody here just because I want to let you get some plugs in here.
Oh.
Now, please tell us about books, websites, shows, anything at all where people can find out more about you.
Let's see, books. Well, books, of course, is your department.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about you first. I mean, I can talk about me.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I have to plug right now is the documentary, which, once again, is April 17th, Friday night, at Studio 101, Harbor Place in Haverhill, Massachusetts, 6:30 to 8:30. Come on down. We're going to have food. We're going to have question and answer. We're going to have book signings. You can buy one of Lynne's books that night.
And be there or be square. That's what I
right.
say.
That's right.
And my first book, Gateway to the Paranormal, is available on Amazon. And then in Portsmouth at Deadwick's, River Run, and Tugboat Alley, if somebody local in Portsmouth wants to buy them. And my other project right now is working on a book that's going to involve some past investigations and some recent ones, and a lot on dreams. I've been having a lot of dreams, Paul, that I was hoping to talk to you at some point.
Yeah, we're going to have lunch, so we'll talk about it. Yeah.
So there'll be a segment on dreams in that, too.
Very good.
And my website is my name, Lynne, with an E, M, Nickerson, .com. Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
you're
Very
a .com.
I'm a .com.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we
hop into our
announcement period here and
Yes.
see where we go. Now, as the coronavirus makes its grim trek across America, we received word on Friday that our second event of the 2020 season, at least ours, the New England Parafest in Kittery, Maine, where all of us were supposed to appear here, has been canceled. Hopefully, only will be rescheduled later in the year, but that was supposed to be April 3rd and 5th in Kittery, Maine. Organizers hope to reschedule once all this blows over. So instead of our on-location panel show from the event on April 5th, in which you both were going to participate, Lynne and I'm looking at this here, Lynne and Willy, of course, but yeah, I remember who you are. It's just
Who are you and why are you here?
I don't know.
What was your name again?
Anyway, no, I'm looking at this. Something that's scrawled out. Anyway, well, we will bring you an open line show from right here in our cozy WON studio, and special guest co-host Shane Searway will join us as he usually does for open line shows.
We'll do our own panel.
Yeah.
So
You won't have to come down. We'll do the panel here.
we could.
Yeah.
We could try and fit everybody in here, but it's kind of a tight studio.
Well, it's only would just be Shane, and there's one extra seat.
That is a good point.
So
naturally, we'll be back at the Exeter UFO Festival on Labor Day weekend, September 5th and 6th, hopefully, as speakers, and we will do our 5th annual live broadcast from the historic Exeter Town Hall on Sunday the 6th at noon. The event is sponsored by the Exeter Area Kiwanis Club to raise funds for local children's charities.
there will be other events throughout the year, we hope, including the Greater New England UFO Conference in Massachusetts on Columbus Day weekend. And this is all happening because this is my 50th anniversary in the paranormal. I'm sure everything's being canceled.
Happy
Bravo!
birthday.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations!
I'm supposed to be the keynote speaker this year on that because of this work anniversary, as they call it on social media. Also in October, look for us on the Travel Channel. We can't say any more about that right now.
So you can check out our books, including Behind the Paranormal, Everything You Know Is Wrong, and Behind the Paranormal 2, Bigfoot, Mothman, and Monsters You've Never Heard of. And also you can check out Dancing Past the Graveyard, Poltergeists, Parasites, Parallel Worlds, and God. They're available from online retailers and in some stores, but for autographed copies, you can visit our online bookstore at BehindTheParanormal.com once the site is back online.
Well, it is back online, but it keeps getting attacked, so if you want to get the recorded show, it's bizarre. If you want to get the recorded shows, it's got the last few months on the site, but you want to go to any of the major podcast platforms like YouTube or Spotify or iTunes. They're all there. We've got them back to almost 2009 now, and so we're going to keep getting them all up. There's another year to go.
Well,
anyway,
next Sunday, March 22nd, we will have a live in studio once again. Jim Weiner and Charlie Foltz, two eyewitnesses to the Allagash UFO incident in Maine in 1976.
That's excellent. Where are they living now? In New York?
No idea.
They're in Boston.
No idea.
Up around Boston. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're in Boston.
Yep.
And
So,
we are just about out of
nice.
time.
Well, I'm Paul Eno.
And I'm Ben Eno. And thanks for joining us on our great cosmic journey. And we shall see you next time on Behind the Paranormal.